Hey YouTube, this is the Art of Prepping. I just wanted to go and do an update on this particular Schrade knife, the SCHF24. And as you can see, I've changed the configuration of how I'm carrying it. I was actually trying to carry it as a neck knife. That was a complete no-go. Just way too heavy and even a little too long. But I did do that for a few weeks and it wasn't totally unbearable or unbearable. It just doesn't work. And so I took it off and I just kept the clip off, and I was using it as a pack blade. Just had it strapped and tethered to a pack, and it works pretty well. But then I was like, okay, I'm going to put the clip back on. So I did, and I put it in this cant. And what this is, this kind of can go into my my back right side. It's about at the 5 o'clock position on my belt, on the back right hand side of my belt. And I tucked the actual the knife in and put the belt through, and so it's close to the body. This does kind of dig in just a hair in certain positions, but about 95% of the time or so, most of the time it doesn't have any problem. And I have it so it's like this, and so it's canted for quick access to draw from behind the back. And I really like it. To my surprise, it does very well. You do have to have a pretty decent little belt though, because it will flex a little bit when it's back there. It'll kind of want to come off to the side just because of the the weight of the knife is a little bit handle heavy. But I just wanted to talk about that. And since the last video or update we did on this, the Schrade SCH24 has been through a lot more. I pushed it through its paces. It's held up really well. I don't see any problems on the blade, anything that's chipped, nothing wrong at all, in fact. I've done a lot of feather sticking, very light batoning, just basically some wood carving and various things like that. I have gone and touched it up pretty heavily just recently on the Spyderco Sharp Maker, on the medium and fine, ceramic rods. And I will tell you, it is freaking ridiculously sharp. Easily cuts hair, shaving sharp, maybe even a little too sharp. I like a working edge. This is a little bit beyond the working edge. This is kind of ridiculous. So now that I understand how easy it is to sharpen this with this 8CR 13 MOV steel, I will have to say it doesn't take that much effort, and I think I'll just do a little stropping of it, maybe on a little bit of leather strip or something, instead of even using the rods, just to maintain this edge. I might even let the edge get just a little bit more dull and not even get it back to this level. It's a little bit too sharp. I mean, it's so sharp though, if you accidentally bump into it, you will cut yourself. It's pretty amazing. I just want to let you know that Schrade knives are pretty decent. I know that there's different variations of their fixed blades and 8CR, 13 MOV that have, like there's a lot of pictures on Amazon, for example, of various ones that have chips, big old hunks chipped out. There could be a heat treat problem. There could be inconsistency in the grain of these knives in different batches. So far, mine seems to be great. I would definitely not do this and use this for a real hard use knife, or maybe like your full-on bushcraft knife or a full-on survival knife. But as a backup or a primary light-duty, outdoors knife, and certainly for a self-defense blade, I think it could be a primary self-defense fixed blade. For some people, it might just be a little bit large, but it depends on your size and stature of a person to carry this. But I think it's very good as a pack knife. Excellent. It really doesn't have that much weight, but you definitely know it's in your hand. And I think the size, at least for me, it works really well. I mean, I wear the extra large gloves, and you can see I pretty much can fill this sucker up. And so if you're on the fence or something about one of these, I know sometimes people don't really care for this this modified drop point, or some people call it a clip point. Actually, depends on how you look at it here. I guess it is just, it's starting to become a clip point, so my bad. And some people even say this is kind of like a reverse tanto or tanto formation there. Whatever you want to call that very interesting blade design. Some people don't like it. I actually do. I think it's really good when you can choke up pretty decent with your thumb here, and this part right here doesn't really have major problems when you're batoning. Some people like it to come out a little bit straighter, so if you do baton, but this really isn't meant to be a batoning knife though. It's not like real thin, but it's a medium thickness of the tang there. But I wouldn't just wail on this all day long as a bushcraft knife. So I would definitely recommend it for what it is, and also having the hollowed out screws here for the handle screws and hardware lends it really well. And just if you ever had to push this in an emergency roll as an emergency survival knife, which this really probably isn't designed to do, you could make this into a spear or other type of self-defense tool. As with, as always though, you have to be kind of aware and know your limitations on your tools. But just want to do this update. I think everything's going really well. I did have to melt this just a little bit. They say this is Kydex, I believe, but I did melt this just a little bit because it had a little rattle, and it's almost now 100%, almost about 98 to 99% no rattle. And so I'm pretty happy with this overall. I really am. In fact, I keep on looking back into the catalog for possibly another one of a different type or style. But at this time, though, I'm pretty much good. I think I'm just going to stick with this, and this satisfies me. I'm really curious about in the future years of what's going to come out, especially now that Smith & Wesson, one of their holding companies, have bought Taylor Cutlery. And as you know, Taylor Cutlery is the parent company that owns like Schrade and Oldtimer and, all these different other sub-brands. And I'm really curious about what they're going to do to the Schrade name and their brand and the different knives in the future, or if they're going to, cut their budget or add money to their budget, or they're going to come out with a lot more tactical knives, bushcraft knives, survival knives. I'm real curious. I have a lot of interest, especially in the direction that Schrade is going now. If it wasn't just until the last year or so that I even started to pay attention to Schrade. And this year, it really got my attention. Normally, when I think of Schrade, I thought of pretty much junk. I really wouldn't even think about doing anything with them. I wouldn't even give them $1. But nowadays, they've got at least a handful of options at minimal that I'm actually very interested in. And half of them I've already purchased. But yeah, man, it's just something to consider. So the Schrade SCHF24, and right there, SCHF24. Is the way to go. So if you're on the fence on one of these, just pull the trigger. I think you're going to be real happy. They're between the low to mid $30 range, roughly. If I remember correctly on Amazon, you can't go wrong with that. So you guys be safe. Catch you later.